Hey, welcome back. We are now at part 3 of this week's new comics, bitches! Ow, fuck. I can't believe this thing. I mean, it really, this is, you see this hand, and then there's this hand. I can do this. And a lot of you are probably thinking, oh, well, he probably makes that all the time. But fuck off. Anyway, so back to comics. Okay, so Fatal, number 4. Brubaker, Phillips, pretty much instant awesomeness. You got a 4. You got a 4 out of 5 pretty much right off the bat, right? Right. I think the only issue of anything that they've ever done that I haven't cared for is the final issue of Incognito Bad Influences. I didn't care for that. Aside from that, everything they do together is pretty fucking stellar. And Fatal is no exception. This is easily one of the books of the week, one of my picks of the week, because what we've got here is in the last issue. In the first issue, we've got a hint. Okay, well, this is going to become some kind of, it's going to be their kind of noir meets the kind of Lovecraftian horror, and it's starting to kind of stray away from that and just kind of more get into like kind of the pulpy, noirish aspects that they love to attack. And that's great. That's their wheelhouse. That's where they're most comfortable, and that's where it's easiest for those guys to make great story. However, because of the promise of this Lovecraftian horror, the last 2 issues, I was thinking, I know it's only issue 2 and 3, we're only at issue 4 right now, but I'm feeling like we should have more of that by now. Well, here in this issue, we finally start to get a little bit more of that. That we have the cop, that we have, the reporter getting arrested for the murder of his wife and his child, as we left off with in the last issue after he'd spent the whole day with Josephine, our femme fatale. And they basically let him go because they know that he's not their guy. And we've got the bad guys, the monstrous guys, the guys with the bowler hats and the glasses. They're attacking the mobster that the 2 crooked cops were dealing with. And there's some pretty horrific shit going on there, and you've got the one dirty cop, Booker, who was involved with Josephine. I'm assuming since or throughout World War II. It seems like he's actually had the ability to see the monsters, perhaps since birth, and whether or not that's just something that's in his own head, or whether or not it's something that actually is real, that adds more of that Lovecraftian element to this. And in the meantime, we have our femme fatale insinuating herself in the lives of just about everyone, and we're really beginning to see her power, that she's the ultimate femme fatale, because she can get anyone to do anything that she wants them to. And they fall under her spell. They fall completely and totally in love with her. They would do anything for her because of the love they feel for her, the desire that they constantly feel. And even when our erstwhile hero is released from prison, the first thing that he wants to do is he wants to go see her. He just can't help it. Even though his wife and son, his wife and child were just brutally, brutally murdered, he needs her. He knows that she can help him forget all of it. And he starts to become aware of the power that she has over him, but he still wants it anyway. I mean, she is a drug. And, it's, love, it's a very powerful thing. As far as, desire, things of that nature. It's, you know, sorry, I'm still just fucking around with stuff here. But, you know, it slowly but surely is making its way to that Lovecraftian horror as we see in kind of the finale of this book. And, you know, it's getting scarier. It's getting more tense. I'm still, you know, I'm dying for the next issue. This was a 4.5 out of 5. Easy through and through. Very solid. Again, just great work from Brubaker and Phillips. The Boys, number 65. Now, this is one of those... I haven't been reviewing The Boys as much as I'd like to be, but I have been reading them and being kind of, you know, I kind of like fall off and then I catch up, and then I fall off and then I catch up. But The Boys number 65 essentially was the finale of the penultimate arc, because it's going to be done soon. The comic is ending very soon. After the next six issue arc, it's going to be done. And we have here, it's the Supes versus everyone. You know, the entire force of, you know, like as much force as the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines can muster, they're taking down the Supes, because everything has just gone to fucking hell for them ever since Homelander came out as a total fucking psycho. And what we learn here is that while he's been a psycho, as Billy says at one point in this time, and of course it's the final confrontation between Billy and the Homelander, that he kind of became a psychopath by accident, as opposed to the truth about Black Noir, and that he's a psychopath on purpose. There's just some, I mean, tremendously bloody, horrifying shit, and it's been kind of building to this the whole time, and in kind of typical Garth Ennis fashion, it's kind of anticlimactic, but it makes sense that it's anticlimactic. Even his runs on Preacher, and even his run on Punisher, they're pretty anticlimactic finishes. It's not some big, huge free-for-all. You know, it's not the Boys versus the Seven, as we kind of thought it would be. It just kind of ends up being Billy versus the Homelander, and not even the Homelander at that. And it's just, it's awesome. You know, we got Russ Braun and John McCrae doing art on this issue. And while this might, like I said, while this might have been the final confrontation between Billy and the Homelander, it ain't over till it's over. It really ain't. And that's part of what is really awesome about this, because what I'm assuming is coming next is kind of the finale for Wee Huey, as far as his relationship between, you know, with Annie, and the Boys, probably the Boys versus Vought American. And so that's, I think, what's coming up here. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to that. And this was just a terrific issue. It's strangely emotional, and of course bloody as all fucking hell. And just the big secret being revealed was like mind blowing. It's like, wow, this is really, really fucked up and really twisted, and it's just a great twist as far as what was coming. So again, 4.5 out of 5, another pick of the week for The Boys, number 65. Jennifer Blood, speaking of Garth Ennis, Jennifer Blood, number 11, although it's now Al Ewing who's writing it, handpicked by Ennis himself, as I think I've said that a number of times. Basically, we've got Jen basically plan to take on QO Solutions to help solve her problem of making sure that no one really discovers who she is. But there are a number of people after her, not only the parents of, and one of them who's already been eliminated, at least one, in the last issue, but we've got the the Buick family, whose daughter was one of the ninjets. It's basically kind of their, you know, he's, this Mason Buick has got, the whole force of this, private security contracting firm behind him, and is ready to basically cut them loose on Jennifer Blood as soon as they find out for sure who she is. And, we've got the idiot next door neighbor who, he's essentially kind of left out of this issue except for the beginning. And then we've got the two cops. We've got Folsom and Pruitt. And Pruitt kind of makes a deal with an old friend of hers who happens to be a pretty badass gangster to, if they bring this gangster Jennifer Blood, then Folsom, who is this dirty cop on the take, who owes them $30,000 or $40,000, essentially will be let off the hook if they bring her to the gangsters. So it's a pretty, it's, again, Ennis is, I don't think he thinks very highly of cops, but he does think very highly of the military, as seen in pretty much any of his work. And again, a lot of the detail as far as like the weapons used and the tactics used is very exacting. It's very precise, and it's really very entertaining to read. It's just, we've got, this, despite Jennifer's perfect planning in her attack on Mason Buick, she has to face the Ninjets too. And the absurdity of this shit is just, it's so wild and it's so awesome, and I just really got to take my hat off to Garth and to Al Ewing, because they've created a character, like I said, that is essentially their own version of the Punisher, but it's a lot more, I shouldn't say a lot more entertaining, because they're both entertaining in their own rights, but this is more of, if Frank Castle had a little bit of a spring in his step and a wink in his eye, this would be who we'd see. And, because there's a much darker sense of humor going on here than in pretty much anything that Garth did, with, of course, the exception of the beginning of his run on the Punisher, when it was still kind of PG rated, and as opposed to the Max stuff that he did. Because the Max stuff is great. I mean, it's better than the stuff that he did when it was just him and Steve Dillon. But, it's obviously a lot more adult, and it's a lot darker, and there's a lot less humor involved, and that it works for Frank Castle. But again, this is, just a tremendously entertaining book. It's always really well done. This, again, another 4.5 out of 5. The indies kind of had it this week. They really kind of kicked the ass of the majors this week in a pretty big way. There was no indie comic that I read this week that I thought was poor or that was lacking. They were all really terrific. So hats off to the indie comics right now. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back, and we'll finish up with the rest of my reviewing. So stay tuned.